Okay, here are all the parts in the kit for the UltraCarbon VOC enclosure, minus the enclosure itself and the carbon bed unit. So, first off, we have a power supply. I'm going to set that to the side for now. We have a couple of retaining clips that's going to go on the carbon bed lid, and I'll show you that in a minute as we assemble it. Self-tapping screws, two HEPA filters that are actually iRobot HEPA filters, so that they're easy to replace in the future and to source and to find in the future. Some silicone for sealing. Here's a little stand that goes to balance out the carbon bed itself. Here's a grommet for the wiring for the motor as it exits the carbon bed body, which I'll again show you during assembly. Here is the power connector that receives power from the power supply and goes to the motor controller, the fan controller. Here's the fan controller. Here's a TX10 bit for the plastic screws, and then 3 pounds of 4mm virgin carbon. So the only things really needed for assembly are going to be a small flathead or Phillips screwdriver for the screws in the motor controller, and a bit driver here for the included bit. Okay, one of the very first steps I like to do is to rinse off the carbon pellets. The carbon pellets are provided in this mesh bag specifically so that they can be rinsed prior to being used. What happens is during shipment and while these carbon pellets move around, they kind of create a little bit of dust, and you don't want that dust getting out and having to breathe it. It's recommended that you wear a mask while handling the carbon, especially before you get the dust off with the water. So we'll do it right now. We're going to rinse the carbon. Don't skimp on the rinse, but you don't want to just rinse for like 30 minutes or something, because the chlorine in the water gets absorbed into the carbon. It'll start eating into the life of your carbon. Again, not a real problem, just to rinse for a minute or so, and you can start seeing when the water starts coming out clear. So let's see what it looks like here. So it might be hard to tell on the camera. Well, you should definitely be able to see how there's this black dust in there, and then when that starts running clear, you'll be able to know that your carbon is properly rinsed. So anyway, the other thing of note is that, and you won't be able to hear it now while the water is running, but when I turn the water off, I don't know if the microphone will pick it up, but it makes kind of a funny noise, kind of like Rice Krispies or something when the water's on it. It's just the little noise it makes. That's completely normal and not to be worried. The reason I do this first is to give the carbon a chance to dry before using it. You can put it in wet into the unit and then run the unit, which will actually dry the carbon out. You can run it before you actually need to use it. But if the carbon's wet like this, it really won't absorb properly the VOCs that it's intended to do. So you can see that there's a little bit of black still at the bottom of the sink that was from before, but now when I rinse it, the water's coming out clear for the most part, and so that's pretty much adequately rinsed right there. And you can do a little bit more personal preference, but really that's satisfactory. So I'm holding it up to the microphone. We'll see if it comes out in the video, if you can hear that kind of snap, crackle, pop sound, or like almost like a fizzing sound. from pouring a carbonated drink. So anyway, that's completely normal, not a problem. You can just set this, leave it in the sink while you build the rest of the unit, and then we'll put the carbon in the bed once the unit's built. Okay, for the fan base, we're going to start on the body with the fan base, and this might be the trickiest part of the assembly in getting the orientation right on these parts. So you'll notice on this base where the HEPA filters go, the inlet base, there is a side where there is no lip on the slot here, and then you'll notice on this side there's a lip on the back end of the slot to keep the filter from going all the way through, so the filter stops as you push it in. Well, on the fan top, the filter top piece, there is one side that has an opening, a groove opening, and one side that doesn't, that's flat. And so the flat side goes against the side with the lip to create an opening on the open side. If you put it in backwards, you won't be able to insert the HEPA filters. So again, these are self-tapping screws. They don't have to be real tight. Just snug them down. Just barely snug. That's really all you need. Otherwise, you risk stripping the part out. But they should go in fairly easy. Doesn't take much to put them in. All right, next we can put the fan on. We'll put the fan on with the label upward. The airflow goes in this direction, out on the label side, in on the non-label side. And we just set the motor right on top. Make sure the wires go out on one of the two sides. I prefer not to have the wires come out on the short side, but not that it's a big deal either way. But anyway, so on this one, we'll actually set the screw in like this, and then we'll put the driver through the top hole in the fan, and then line it up in the pre-molded hole right there, and get it, and it should just go right in. I like to leave it a little bit loose until I get the other ones in. That way you have a little wiggle room to find the pre-molded hole for the screw there. So again, lift it up just a little bit. Once you get the first two in, the last two are pretty much lined up. Putting these screws in for this part of it is actually why the bit is long, why we have a longer bit. Let go of it. So I went ahead and snug that one down a little bit. And Go ahead and snug this one down. And then snug the first two. Left a little loose. All right. Next we can, okay. All right. So next we will put the top part on here. First thing we'll do is where there's this hole, this is the diffuser that goes up into the carbon bed unit. It's going to go on right over here. And but first we're going to put this grommet in, put it in from the inside here, and just sticks in just like that. And then the side that the air filters come in and out of, you'll want that facing you, and then you'll put the grommet facing out to your right. So in this case, you know, you could have turned the fan and had the wires coming up this way, but you don't have to. You can do it this way as well. So we'll take the red and the black wires and feed them through the grommet. And then the rest of the wires, you can also feed through the grommet if you want. It makes it a little better seal, but you can also put a little dip of silicone on there and a little drop of silicone on there to seal it up if you want to. The nice thing about this design is that even if there's a little bit of air leakage, it goes right back into the enclosure and then comes out into the back, and it gets sucked back into the inlet here. It doesn't escape out of the enclosure because the entire carbon bed is in the enclosure. So anyway, so now that that's done, you can put this piece on top. Now with the included silicone, you can put a little bead of silicone around there to seal it if you like. I don't necessarily do it. I think that there's really negligible. I haven't found any air leakage in that interface because there is this lip on there. The next piece that goes on top is flat to flat, and there is no lip, and so that's where I put the silicone. So anyway, we'll screw this diffuser piece down to the fan assembly. And again, there's pre-molded holes there lined up. They should just easily go in like it's doing right now. And again, just as soon as it gets snug down onto the surface, you don't really need to tighten it at all. It's not going to come loose, and if you tighten it too much, you'll strip it or break it perhaps. So anyway. There we go. That's it. All right, so I'll set this aside, and next we're going to work on the exhaust diffuser, which is going to be mounted, eventually be mounted right next to the inlet there. And you'll notice that this stand has a little bit longer side. I put that side to the outside to give it just a little more stability. But this just clips on to right there. And there is a screw that will go on the top of there. You kind of have to go at an angle here to get this screw in, but it should work out. So you just kind of go in like this, and again, does not have to be more than just snug a little bit, and you'll snug it down. Now this screw head, it's a recessed hole here, so you'll want that screw head below the surface right here, and that should be no problem. It should do that. All right. Okay, next we're gonna go ahead and start assembling the carbon bed itself. So this is actually the piece where the actual carbon will go in, and then we have a removable lid that goes on top. And in order to keep it in place and then to be able to remove it to change the carbon, which won't be very often, but can happen, that's why we put on these clips, and so these retaining clips here. So hopefully you can see those. So let me show you how to put those on. So now you can see the orientation here. The clip portion is going downward, or to the opening of the lid. And I'll put these on. I'm going to leave it a little loose for the next one. So, all right. I'll sound like a broken record, just a little bit snug. Do not tighten down too much. Just as soon as it really starts to snug and resist, you can stop. All right, and then we'll go ahead and do the other side here as well. Let's see. Set it right here. And just leave it loose until we get the second one in. This one, this driver I have is a ratcheting driver, which is a little handy, but of course they're not all that way. All right, now this one, there's a little tricky on this one to get these holes underneath here. So on this, we have to open it up like this, and then it's a little tricky because you have to have it open in order to put the screw in, and there's a spring there. So what I like to do is start like this. And then again, you just kind of have to get it started enough, and then you can get it in there. On this one, I don't go all the way in until I get the second screw going, and I'll put this one all the way in, then I'll go back and tighten the first one. Oop. So that's what I'm talking about. This part is a little trickier, but not too difficult. There we go. All right, now we'll go ahead and do the other side here. So again, I'm opening it up here, and I find it easier to do the bottom hole. Stick the screw in, stick the driver in there, and then just once you get it started, it's kind of like acts as another hand almost. And then open it up and start this second one. All the way in snug. All right, and then you can see how the roof, or the lid just goes on, and you just flip it down, and that's what'll keep it on and tight, and it's actually pretty nice. And then whenever you go to change the carbon, you just can unclip these, remove the lid, and then pour the carbon out. Of course, this stuff's about to be attached to it too, and that's okay. That'll just stay attached that whole time. So, all right. Well, now we're going to go ahead and start assembling these units to this carbon bed. Okay, next we're going to attach the fan and the exhaust diffuser to the carbon bed body. So you'll notice that on one side of the carbon bed body, it's got a little bit of an inset, and on the other side, it's completely flat. And so the side with the inset goes on the side with the fan diffuser, and you also notice there's a staggered lineup of the screw tabs here, which lines up with this staggered lined up here, and then of course these are straight and line up there. So we'll start by just placing, and that's how it's going to be on here. Now this is the one connection where I do recommend, again, not absolutely required, but it is included, some silicone, and I do recommend putting a little bit of silicone on this surface to make this attachment here. So we'll go ahead and do that, and just kind of just squeeze, just put a little light film there. Again, any leakage goes back into the enclosure and then is still trapped, and so the vapors don't go out into the room that the printer is in, the printer or whatever you're trying to control the vapors on. Even so, it is nice to do that. So put that little bit of silicone on there, and then we'll go ahead and get a screw and screw these two sides down. Long driver, and of course, all right. Again, leave it just a little loose to get this other side in right here. Snug that one down, and we'll snug this one down. A little bit of excess silicone, you can wipe it off if you like. And then now we're going to go ahead and attach this as well. All right. So again, on this one, I just like to start it. Don't go all the way snug until I get the other side. And then you kind of want to hold it up tight to where it's not hanging down. You just kind of hold it with your hand there, and screw it in. See, kind of tighten it up. This one, I don't put any silicone on this one. There's very little pressure right there because it's just on the exhaust diffuser. It's already going. It's already gone through the carbon there. All right. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to attach our motor and our power connector here to the controller. So you notice these power connector, the stripping on the power connector is very short and almost like it's intended to be soldered or something, but you're welcome to strip these back a little further, a little bit. But on the back here, you'll see that it says it's got out negative, out positive, voltage V negative, voltage V positive. And so the incoming power, of course, is the V. And so we're going to connect the red one to the V positive and put it in and get that in there. And then screw it down, screw that terminal down. One nice thing about this kit is there is no soldering. I, of course, missed the wire there. I might have to actually strip these back a little further like I suggested. And if I get it just the right spot there, I should be able to get it. All right, and same thing with the negative here. We're going to put this underneath and get it into this terminal. All right, depth there, and then tighten this down. Then you want to check, make sure you actually got it, which I did. Okay, then on the motor side, they're stripped back quite a bit more, so it's quite a bit easier. So out positive, of course, is the red on, as most everyone knows. So I'll stick that in, tighten it down. There we go. And then last, the negative. On this motor controller, which will control the fan speed, the recommended setting is 40. So when this is powered up, when power is connected to this, it lights up all the time, and then you can adjust 0 to 100. You can go above 40. It's more airflow, but it's not really needed, and it is a louder. That fan is very powerful, and it does make it a little bit louder, but it's whatever your preference is. But I run mine at 40, and it works great. Now, this power connector fits into this cradle here, and it doesn't really snap in, but it fits snugly in. So you trying to make sure you guys can see it, but it's right here, and you place it in at this kind of angle, and you do snap it down, and it kind of clicks into place. I don't know if it's really a click or just kind of gets snug in there, and you'll feel that. And then this unit right here just fits right in to this opening here. Gotta kind of adjust the wires. You could zip tie these wires down if you wanted underneath here, but this just fits in just like that, and then there you go. So again, to turn the unit on and off, you just press this button in. If there's a power outage and the is when you connect power to the unit, it always comes on. So if you have it off and then for some reason you you leave and you come back and the power at your location is cycled, and the unit's, that's why the unit's running, is because anytime you apply power, it turns on. And then with it on or off, though, you can adjust the number, and again, the recommended setting is 40, but you'll notice when you first put power on there, it'll turn on. Of course, this is the power supply, and the power supply just, you just insert it right here for power, but then if you ever have to service it to change the carbon, you can just unplug, or if you have to move the unit or whatever, but there's your power supply and it just plugs in right there. So then the last thing to do would be to, we'll pour the carbon into the bed here, and then put the lid on, and then it'll be ready to go, ready to use. All right, once assembled, we're ready to put the carbon, the activated carbon, into the carbon bed here. So we'll just move the lid here, and we'll take the carbon that we rinsed off in the bag here, and we will pour into the bed, and they'll go evenly on both sides. It's kind of bouncing off the one side, so you kind of fill up. It should go to the almost the very top, basically the top of the two beds. They don't have to be perfectly even. You can see I'm kind of making a little bit of a mess. Again, it's always recommended to wear a face mask when doing this, when handling the carbon like this. And I had a few pellets drop out into the enclosure, and then we just put the top back on and secure it. And now it's done, and it's ready to place into the enclosure here. So you'll notice that there is a little inset and a flap. The enclosure, the edge of the enclosure, goes between the body here and this little strip right here. So we'll just place it here right through the side entry, and we'll slide it back to where the enclosure edge right there goes, right where I just showed you, and then we just place it right there. Put the flap back down as much as possible, and that's really it. It's good to go. So I'm going to move this a little bit. Now we'll just hook the power up to the power connector. Anytime the power comes on, the unit actually turns on. So if there's like a power outage and then the power comes back on, the unit will turn back on. So that's normal. And so I'm going to kind of do it blind here, but got it in there. You can hear it start to turn on. I'm going to turn it off for a second, and then you can see here that there's an adjustment. I had already set this one, but I think it starts at 50. Of course, it goes 0 to 100, but the recommended setting is 40. So that's the right amount of flow, airflow, and it's a proper mix between the amount of airflow and what we call the residence time for the vapors to have plenty of time to be in contact with the carbon pellets. So that's it. So when you're ready to use it, literally just press this button in, click it in, and it'll start running. You'll hear it ramp up, and it's about as loud as a kind of a vacuum cleaner maybe in the other room. so it's not perfectly quiet. But and then when you're done, you just press the button again, and it turns off. And that's it. Of course, you put your 3D printer or whatever you want to capture the vapors of, whether it be crafts, a resin printer, or 3D printer, whatever, in the enclosure. Zip the lid closed and turn it on. Zip the lid closed, and that's it. And it goes from there.